So to today, the way
I
that
brought this nifty weird thing.
it's basically a piano wire. It's one of the best ways to cut cheese without having anything come off of a blade. It's one thin wire that's strewn across what looks essentially like a tuning fork, which is kind of cool. Really hard to set if you break the wire and define the wire, but you can figure it out. And there's a lot of places that will come up with a wire and two handles. That is one of the best ways to cut any cheese, really.
Okay. Cool.
What we decided to do, and I've asked you to do this, which is the best way to taste cheese, is always to pick a goat, a sheep, a cow milk, and also a blue or really intense wash rind cheese. You went the extra mile, and it actually speaks completely to the season that we're in. But both a blue and a wash rind, which happens to be cow, which is awesome because that makes the most sense for the season we're in. So you did it without really knowing why you did it.
What can I say?
It's awesome. I mean, you're right away. So the first cheese we're trying.
On my way to wait, I'm not sure. What I'm not sure. But
just keep running and you'll keep counting. So the first cheese we're trying is Twig Farm Goat Tone. Twig Farm is a farm in West Cornwall, Vermont, that is a one-man show, one-man operation. Michael Lee is the owner, cheesemaker, goat herder, great family man, great artist. He used to work at Freakin Formaggio here in Boston, and he and I got to spend a lot of time together. He decided, I think it's 5 years ago, to actually go up and start a goat farm and make great cheese. It's one of the simplest forms of cheese. This is tome style. It's really simple. Just get the milk into a cauldron, heat it to a certain temperature, give it the cultures and the coagulant to separate, and then once it separates, cut the curds into these cubes that make the most sense. In his case, they're about 1 inch by 1 inch. Put them, we'll drain the liquid off them, then put them into forms, into round forms, and then put them in your basement cave and let them age. That simple. Wow. It's one of the simplest forms of cheese. That's one of the original.
I had a basement cave. Yeah. It's pretty good. It has an interesting kick at the end.
What do you mean by kick? What are you tasting in a kick?
I need to taste it again because I've already forgotten.
Exactly. Goat milk is one of the first that we start with in any form of it for tasting because it has the most amount of delicate flavor to offer. Yeah. Because goats don't have a lot of fat. They don't bring a ton of fat with them in their curd or in their milk for it to glom over or cover over a lot of the flavors of what they're eating. And Michael is very, very clean in his process, but he's also very attentive to what the goats eat.
Yeah, it's very clean tasting.
But you get a lot of
kind of grassy.
Twigs, grassy. Twiggy. You should get a little bark, too. You should get a little earth. You should get a little
Maybe mold. That's the kick, the bark.
That's part of it. I mean, goats are naturally drawn to bark instinctually. It actually helps aid in their digestion. It's got a little bit of an aspirin quality. So they just naturally go that way. Michael actually named the farm Twig Farm because when he bought it, it was just a land full of trees and twigs. No grass.
Really? That's cool.
Although over the last few years, the goats have cleared it out so much that now there's a lot of grass, so it's kind of changing the makeup of the cheese.
Maybe it should be grass farm.
Well, it'll
keep
things that way.
I mean, yeah, it's very earthy tasting.
Yeah, there's a lot of earth to it. That's actually key to both the style of the cheese, but also what the animals are grazing.
This is like a good munching cheese.
Good entrance, yeah. This is great, actually, from white wine. Even though this looks a little bit like a formidable cheese, I would definitely put it together with white wines. So you're going to put it with Satser.
I was about to say, I would want this in the summertime too.
Definitely. So, and this is one that he makes all year round, and you can see it through its various changes. So this was coming, let's say this is 80 days old, so a little over 2 months. So this is coming from November, roughly, mid-November. So the animals are still grazing out there. They're not on snow yet. In Vermont, there would still be some things for them to eat, but a lot of twigs, a lot of leaves. It's very important.
It smells like much earthier than it actually tastes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And that's key to what they're grazing on. In the fall, anything, leaves, twigs, grass, has all been baked by the sun over the course of the summer. So it's changed the flavor of what they're eating. That's going to make its way into the milk, and it's easily and most readily felt by goats because, again, they don't have enough fat to glom over it. So we'll see what happens next. The next one you choose is sheep milk.
You never do cheese tastings, do you?
Never. No, this is the first time I've ever done it.
You've ever really gone through this?
Never, ever.
You don't really understand how to get the details in quickly.
No, I'm trying.
Sorry, my cat's attacking my foot. Stop. He wants cheese. He wants cheese.
So, sheep milk. Sheep milk is my absolute favorite, as by the story that I told earlier. This is Corsu Vecchio. This is from Corsica, the island off of southern France in the Mediterranean. Very odd-sounding words, very isolated island that got taken over by France to become a part of their world. But their style is really, really old. It actually goes...
Another red spots in there.
So really old tome style, same as the first one, right? But sheep milk. Sheep milk has a lot more fat, has a lot more vanilla flavored, almost flat, to it. Lanolin is a flavor that comes out in most sheep milk cheeses. You just don't know it. And you've heard the word lanolin. You hear it in different forms. Sometimes it's used to talk about soap. It's a very silky,
I've heard it
velvety.
associated with cleaning.
It's a very silky, velvety texture, but it's also a flavor, a silky, velvety, sweet flavor. And there's not a lot else that can come out of it. Granted, that being said, they are grazing in what's called the Garrigue. They're grazing on these mountainous landscapes. Corsica is actually more of an island mountain than it is just a flat island.
It's like Lost.
It's not tropical. Very, very more Lost than beach. And there's a lot of wild...
This is the official cheese of Lost.
Totally. This is they're grazing on wild forest kind of herbs, and like the goats, they love a lot of twigs. They love a lot of dried things. Sheep were probably the first, they're claimed to be one of the first next to goat to be domesticated. So if you're traveling with goats and sheep on the Silk Road back and forth, there's not a lot for them to eat, so they adapt themselves to whatever's available. They still give milk. They still have something available for the person who's got them. That's why they're important. So, that being said, you've got fat dominating, but you've also got the animals picking up a lot of earth and wild flavors. And that color that he asked about, there's this orangey kind of color on the rind. It's a white and mottled orange. That's actually coming from the aging facility.
Oh, okay.
So it's coming from the aging facility. The water that grows the things that they eat and also that they drink, that actually comes through in the end. And sometimes it can be a bad thing for some cheeses. But in the case of Corso Vecchio, this is a cheese that's been around for centuries. So there's really not much that's wrong with it. In fact, you almost want that.
Because you know it's the real deal.
Correct. If you're making a new cheese from scratch...
This is extremely delicious. Just
What do you taste? What's the first thing you taste?
I taste fat.
Good. There's fat. Do you taste salt? Yes.
Yeah, it's salty. Fat and salt, my two favorites.
The middle, though.
It's really creamy.
There's cream, but there's also another flavor there.
I'm really bad at identifying flavors.
It's almost a little bit more... It's on the way to citrus. It's a little bit more... There's a bite, somewhat of a bite to it. It's almost cheddary. So it's almost pineapple without being pineapple citrus. It's got the kick of pineapple without that sweet citrusy edge to it. So it's got a little bit more...
I need to try more to see if I can taste the pineapple.
But it takes some time. So the best way it would have been brought out, again, white wine. A little more heavier white wine, maybe a Chardonnay. Something...
Would bring out the fruitiness.
Yeah, nothing too oaky, nothing too woody. Actually, Old World Chardonnay would be the best idea. Or even when we get closer to March, the Austrians make a white wine called Grüner Veltliner, which it's green
I know green
Veltliner, basically. So it's a spring wine.
This is excellent.
Great.
Run, don't walk to get Corso Vecchio. This
Definitely.
is very, very good.
It's one that's not available all the time, and also it's one that's very expensive. Sheep milk is quite expensive because you don't get milk from sheep all year round.
Actually, it smells fruity. I can smell the pineapple more than I can taste it.
Yeah. So it's there. This cheese, though, in antiquity would go back to the Roman times. So they would basically be making Pecorino Romano, but this is a smaller version of that, and it's changed over the centuries just by living.
So good.
So definitely. That's really all salt. This is same milk, but less salt and a different approach.
I don't have a problem with salt, so I like either.
Exactly.
If there's salt and fat involved, I don't have a problem.
Good. You've picked the right thing to get obsessed with.
Yeah.
So where you go from here after you have a sheep milk, and the reason for also having sheep milk after the goat is all that fat that's now coated the top of your palate.
Okay.
So you need something to break it up.
I wish this guy knew what he was talking about.
You have a lot of flavors going on inside your mouth, but they're not thick. They haven't stuck too much. It's actually still a very clean flavor in your mouth. But next, we're going to challenge it. We're going to go even higher with the intensity with a blue.
Yeah.
And the blue that you chose, and I'm glad you chose.